Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Bibbity Bobbity Books. My name is Ellie and this is going to be an unhaul video. So this is the first unhaul that I've ever filmed on my channel, and it's about time because I am quickly losing shelf space for books and I need to start being a bit more ruthless, and I need to prioritise keeping those books that are all-time favourites or those that I know that I'm going to reread, and passing on other books to new homes where they're going to be appreciated more than me, rather than them just sitting on my shelves not being read. So yeah, I'm trying to be a little bit stricter with which books I keep, especially because I'm planning to move at some point in the near future, so I need to start downsizing my book collection, and yeah, just making sure that I'm keeping those that are actually really special to me. And yeah, it's hard for me to do because I'm a maximalist and I love books, but I'm trying to be strict with myself. So yeah, I've got a big old box of books to go through, so I'm going to dive straight in. It's probably going to be a long video, so grab yourself a cup of tea and let's get cracking. Okay, so the first book that I'm pulling out is Eleanor, Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. I remember I did really enjoy this book when I read it. I read it years ago, close to when it first came out, and I did enjoy it, but I just don't think that I'm going to be rereading this one again. It's a contemporary book and I feel like my tastes in books have changed a little bit over the years. I'm much more drawn to fantasy and horror and those types of stories rather than contemporary. But yeah, this is a fantastic book if you haven't read it before. It follows our main character Eleanor, and she has this difficulty connecting with others. She lives a very rigid life, and it's been a while since I read it, so I'm just going to read you from the back. That's probably easier, isn't it? So it says, Eleanor Oliphant leads a simple life. She wears the same clothes to work every day, eats the same meal deal for lunch every day, and buys the same 2 bottles of vodka to drink every weekend. Eleanor Oliphant is happy. Nothing is missing from her carefully timetabled existence, except sometimes everything. So yeah, what I remember I liked about this book is the fact that it has a big focus on friendship in here and the healing power of friendship. Obviously our main character Eleanor struggles with alcohol addiction as well, and it's just some really interesting and thought-provoking themes in here. So yeah, I did enjoy this one, but won't be rereading, so we'll be passing it on to a new loving home. Next up, we have a couple of middle grade stories that I am sad to be letting go of, but again, I need to be strict with myself. So this is Frost Heart by Jamie Littler. So I've got the first and the second books from this middle grade series, and while I did have fun with these books, they're not an all-time favourite middle grade for me. I felt that they read quite young, and I tend to prefer middle grades that read a little bit older, but these are such gorgeous books, and I just know that there's going to be a kid out there who's going to really appreciate these, so I'm going to be passing it on to a loving new family. But yeah, this is like a frosty, snowy middle grade series, and I'll read you from the back of the first book. So it says, far out in the coldest part of the monster infested snow sea, Ash waits for his missing parents with only his grumpy yeti guardian for company. But when an accident reveals that Ash has amazing magical powers, he's whisked aboard the Frost Heart and explore a sleigh with a daring crew who need his help. Can they help Ash master his new power and find his family? So yeah, these have a really nice found family element to them. I really enjoy the grumpy yeti guardian character. But yeah, I'm not going to be rereading these, and I'm not in any rush to read the final book in this series, so I think I will be letting them go to a new home. So that's those ones. Next up, we have Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis. This is a book that I read fairly recently with my friend Josh from the channel Josh Yaks, and we both had a really interesting reading experience with this one because we both had a fair few issues with it. I will link my video down below where I talk much more in depth about this book because yeah, I want to try and keep this one quite brief. But this is a retelling of the Cupid and Psyche myth, and there's a lot of emphasis on religion in here and on philosophy, and yeah, sadly this one just wasn't for me, so I'm going to be passing it on. Do check out that video if you want to hear more of my thoughts on this one though. Next we have Gilded Rose by Emma Ham. So I picked this one up, I'm not gonna lie, largely because I really enjoy this cover, but also because I heard loads of fantastic things about Emma Ham as a author. She's a self-published author and she's written loads of books. mostly romance, if not all romance, and there's a lot of retellings in her collection, and I thought I'd try her works, and I started with this one and I wasn't too obsessed with this one, if I'm being honest. This is just a very straightforward Beauty and the Beast retelling with no particular nuance or complexity or anything to make it stand out from anything that I've read before, so it was enjoyable enough, but it wasn't anything particularly special, so I think I'm going to be parting with this one. But if you have any recommendations for me about Emma Ham books that you think that I might enjoy, because I feel like I might have just picked up one that just didn't work for me, because she's got so many, so I'm sure there must be some that I will enjoy. So if you do have any recommendations for me, please do let me know in the comment section. But yes, I will be parting with this one. Next up we have another middle grade, again just because I'm probably not going to reread this one, and I feel like there's probably going to be a young person out there who might enjoy this one more than me, and so it makes sense to part with it. So this is My Jasper Jean by Laurel Cinder. Again, I will link the video down below where I talk more in depth about this one, because I did actually really enjoy this one. It was very moving and it had some really lovely themes in there about friendship and about difficult childhoods, difficult upbringings and family dynamics. So yeah, on the back it says Leah is lost, Jasper is lost, but they have just found each other and that will change everything. So basically it's about two girls who end up meeting. They're both from very different backgrounds and they end up striking up this very unlikely friendship, and it's a really, really beautiful story. There are some triggers in here though, so do check out those before diving into this one if you're interested in it. Next up we have one that I haven't actually read but I just don't think that I'm going to actually ever read it, sadly, and that is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. So I picked this one up ages ago, like quite a few years ago, when I was watching BookTube and loads of people were talking about this one and really, really loving it. So I jumped on board the hype train and I picked up a copy for myself, but I think I've read the first couple of chapters of this one and I just wasn't super into the story or the writing style, and I just haven't been motivated to try this one. So I think I'm going to be passing it on to someone who might enjoy this more than me. But this is a very steamy romance, and all I can remember about it is that it's a age gap romance. So I think it's where a girl ends up having a romance with her boyfriend's dad, I think. It says, he took me in when I had nowhere else to go. He doesn't use me, hurt me, or forget about me. He doesn't treat me like I'm nothing, take me for granted, or make me feel unsafe. He remembers me, laughs with me, and looks at me. He listens to me, protects me, and sees me. I can feel his eyes on me over the breakfast table, and my heart pumps so hard when I hear him pull in the driveway after work. I have to stop this. I can't let it happen. My sister once told me there are no good men, and if you find one, he's probably unavailable. Only Pike Lawson isn't the unavailable one. I am. So yeah, it's a bit of a taboo romance really, and yeah, I just don't think it's really for me, so I'm going to be passing that one on. Next up we have a book that I did really enjoy, and that is The Humans by Matt Haig. So this is a very fun sci-fi, like light sci-fi story. I remember it was quite funny and I had a really good time with this one. I remember reading it on holiday, but again, it's something that I'm probably not going to be rereading, and it's not all-time favourite. It was just a fun time, so yeah, I think I'm going to be letting this one go. So it says on the back, after an incident one wet Friday where he is found walking naked through the streets of Cambridge, Professor Andrew Martin is not feeling quite himself. Food sickens him, clothes confound him, even his loving wife and teenage son are repulsive to him. He feels lost amongst an alien species and hates everyone on the planet. Everyone, that is, except Newton, and he's a dog. Who is he really, and what could make someone change their mind about the human race? So yeah, it's basically about an alien who takes the place of this professor, and it's quite funny because we're seeing humanity through the eyes of this alien, and it makes you stop and think about some of the things that we do and how things might be perceived by an alien race. And it was quirky, it was fun, and as you can imagine, the alien starts off not really liking where he's at or his situation that he's in, or not really understanding humans, and as he progresses through the book, through the story, he does end up sort of coming round, and it's quite a wholesome wholesome story. So yeah, I did have fun with this one, but won't be rereading, so I'm being ruthless and I'm getting rid of it. Well, I say I'm getting rid of it, I'm going to donate it to the charity shop. Okay, so next we have The Devouring Gray by Christine Lynn Herman. This is a YA horror thriller book, and I do remember I really enjoyed this years ago when I first read it, but I don't think I'll be continuing on with this series because it's been so long since I read this first book, and I just don't think that I want to prioritise it. There are other books that I am more interested in these days, but I did have a really fun time with this one. I remember this had a really great creepy atmosphere. It has culty vibes, it has a small town setting, it also has really good LGBTQIA rep in here as well, so it is a good YA book if you're looking for something like that. It has this really eerie setting, and I remember it almost made me feel a little bit like, or it reminded me of Stranger Things, because there's this kind of alternate place where this monster is being kept trapped, and I don't know, it just reminded me a little bit of Stranger Things. So yeah, if you're looking for something with those vibes, I would recommend this one, but yeah, I'm not going to be rereading it, so I'm going to be passing it on because I'm being strict with myself. Can you tell that this is hard for me to let go of these books? But I need to. This is good. This is good. Okay, next we have The Kingdom of Infinite Space by Raymond Tallis, a fantastical journey around your head. So I got this years ago from my mum, I think, for Christmas. If you don't know, I studied psychology as my undergraduate degree, so I'm very, very interested in all things to do with brains and to do with the psyche and to do with behaviour and things like that, and this is a book that I really did enjoy. It's a non-fiction. It says on the back that it's a fantastic, wonderful treasury of stupefying facts, a sort of Ripley's Believe It or Not compendium of the extraordinary processes that go on inside our fragile skulls. This is a wonderful book full of passages to make the reader stop and stare, if only in the mirror. So it's very much kind of dissecting our minds and the way we think and things like that. So yeah, I enjoyed this at the time, but probably won't be rereading. On a similar vein, we also have this book, which is Into the Magic Shop, a neurosurgeon's true story of the life-changing magic of compassion and mindfulness. So again, another story about neuroscience. Obviously this is from the perspective of a neurosurgeon. So it says, this book tells a remarkable story of a neurosurgeon's quest to unravel the mystery of the link between our brains and our hearts. So yeah, I enjoyed this at the time, but probably won't be revisiting it, so I'm going to be passing that one on. Next we have a YA book called Fable, written by Adrian Young. I read this fairly recently when I was on holiday because it is a water-based fantasy story, and yeah, something just didn't quite click with me for this one. I didn't love it as much as I wanted to. I do remember it was a perfect read for being on holiday though, because there was lots of gorgeous descriptions of the ocean, and it was set on like an island and had all of those vibes, all the salt water and all of that. So it was perfect holiday read, but yeah, I didn't love this, and I'm not going to be carrying on with the series. So this one follows a daughter who is left on an island by her father, and she basically is trying to get off the island and to go and seek revenge and take back what is rightfully hers. And yeah, I'll link the video below where I talk about this one more in detail as well for you if you're interested. Next up we have a thriller, and the reason why I'm passing this one on is because I feel like once you've read a thriller you kind of can't really reread it because you know the twists and the turns, so it doesn't have the same impact as your first read. So while I did really enjoy this thriller book, I'm probably not going to be rereading it, so I want to pass it on to someone who can experience it for the first time. So this is No Exit by Taylor Adams. So yeah, this is basically a snowy thriller. So we follow our main character who is driving during a snowstorm, and she ends up getting snowed into this rest stop, and when she's there there's just a handful of other people with her, and when she's outside looking for signal on her phone, I think, she ends up realising that there's someone locked in the back of one of the vehicles in the car park. So she realises that someone who is trapped with her in the way station has kidnapped someone, and she doesn't know what to do, and we follow kind of the events that lead on from that, and it is wild. It was really, really fun. If you're looking for a snowy thriller, couldn't recommend this highly enough. Next up we have Odd and the Frost Giants by Neil Gaiman. So this is a very short little middle grade story. The reason why I have this one is because I've been slowly working my way through Neil Gaiman's books. I do really enjoy his writing, but this one was actually a little bit of a miss for me. I was a little bit disappointed. I found it quite slow and I just didn't really connect with the story for this one, so for that reason I'm going to be passing it on to someone else. So this says, Odd the Viking boy has run away from home even though he can barely walk and has to use a crutch. Alone in the forest he encounters a bear, a fox, an eagle, each of whom has a strange story to tell. They need Odd's help to save the city of Asgard from the frost giants who have invaded it. It's going to take a very special kind of boy to defeat the terrible frost giants and rescue the mighty gods. Someone cheerful and infuriating and clever. Someone just like Odd. So yeah, I feel like this had a really good premise, but for some reason I just didn't connect with the story. So yeah, I'm going to be passing that one on. Okay, so next up we have a very popular book, don't come at me, but this is Neon Gods by Katie Roberts. I had a really fun time reading this book. This is an incredibly spicy book. It's 90% smut, or like 10% plot, but I was okay with that because it was just really fun. It's a Hades and Persephone retelling and it's all about the spice. It did what I wanted it to do, but I'm probably not going to be rereading this one. I will say this is fairly risque. There's a little bit of like BDSM content in there, so it might not be for everybody, but yeah, I had fun with this one, but probably won't be rereading. So yes, we're getting rid of that one. Next up we have another neuroscience book. So this is The Tale of the Dueling Neurosurgeons, written by Sam Keane. So again, this is one that I read ages ago and I'm probably not going to pick up again, although I do find this subject really, really interesting. So it says on the back here, for centuries scientists had only one way to study the brain: wait for misfortune to strike, strokes, seizures, infections, horrendous accidents, and see how the victims changed afterwards when different parts of the brain were destroyed. The stories of these people laid the foundations of modern neuroscience, and century by century key cases taught scientists what every last region of the brain did. So yeah, it's talking about all of those things really, about how we learnt how the brain works, and yeah, I find this subject particularly fascinating, but I've read it and probably not going to reread it, so I'm passing it on. Next up we have Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdez. This is a kooky sci-fi book, the first in a series. Again, I'll link the video where I talk more in depth about this one down below if you want to hear my thoughts. But this was a fun time. I remember this had some really fun concepts in it and there were elements that I liked, but the story just felt really disjointed to me and I didn't connect with the main character. I found her kind of annoying, and so for that reason sadly this one didn't work. I'm not gonna lie, I was drawn in by the idea of there being these psychic cats. But they didn't feature that much in the story, which made me feel a little bit salty, so I felt like I'd been deceived by the cover. But yeah, it was okay, but I didn't love it, so passing that one on. Okay, so next up we have Sleeping Giants by Sylvian Nivelle. This is looking very sorry for itself. I read this years ago and I took it on holiday, so it's a little bit water damaged sadly, so I don't know if I'm going to take this to the charity shop or what, because I don't know if it's really in the best condition. But this is a sci-fi novel about a young girl who ends up falling into this giant hand. So basically she's out on her bicycle and she ends up falling down this pit and landing on this giant hand, and since then she's been fascinated about these giants, these like giant robot things that are buried underneath the ground, and she dedicates her life to researching these giants. And yeah, this is a super popular sci-fi book. I know a lot of people really love this one. I just thought it was okay. I don't know if I just wasn't into it at the time. I wonder if I would actually enjoy this if I revisited it. Oh no, maybe I should keep it. Ugh. No, I need to be ruthless. Realistically, am I going to read it again? Probably not. Yeah, Sleeping Giants. Next up we have a classic book. This is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. Who remembers this book? This is very, very old. The pages are so yellow in this one. I bought this and read this back when it was a big deal and I enjoyed it. I had fun with this series, but I don't know what happened to the other books in this series. I seem to only have this first one on my shelves for some reason, but yeah, I am not going to be rereading this series, I don't think, so I'm going to be departing with this one. Right, we are getting there now. So the next book is Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. This is a book that I read quite a while ago and I enjoyed it. I wasn't obsessed with it. I know a lot of people love this one. I think I just wanted something a little bit different from this one. I was hoping that it would lean more into the paranormal, spooky side, and it didn't really. It was very slow, very beautifully written, quite character focused. I'll read you the synopsis on the back. So it says, in an ancient inn on the Thames are regulars entertaining themselves by telling stories when the door bursts open and in steps an injured stranger. In his arms is the drowned corpse of a child. Hours later, the dead girl stirs, takes a breath and returns to life. Is it a miracle? Is it magic? And who does the little girl belong to? So yeah, I just feel like from that synopsis, I was expecting it to be a little bit more paranormal, a little bit more fantastical than it actually ended up being. So I think for that reason, I didn't love it as much as I wanted to. But yeah, I know a lot of people really enjoy this book, so I'm going to be passing it on to someone else. Next we have another psychology type book that I read a while ago. This is The Village Effect, Why Face-to-Face Contact Matters, written by Susan Pinker. Again, this is a non-fiction. It says on the back, marrying the findings of the new field of social neuroscience together with gripping human stories, award-winning author and psychologist Susan Pinker explores the impact of face-to-face contact from cradle to grave, from city to Sardinian mountain village, from classroom to workplace, from love to marriage to divorce. Her results are enlightening and enlivening, and they challenge our assumptions. Most of us have left the literal village behind and don't want to give up our new technologies to go back there. But as Pinker writes so compellingly, we need to close social bonds and uninterrupted FaceTime with our friends and families in order to thrive, even to survive. Creating our own village effect can make us happier. It can also save our lives. So yeah, it's very much a story about human connection and the importance of face-to-face contact, which was quite interesting actually to reflect upon it during the whole pandemic lockdown situation. But yeah, I feel like this is quite old now, so I feel like quite a lot of the research is fairly old. So yeah, I'm going to be getting rid of that one. And yeah, I think we're pretty much there now. Oh, we have another neuroscience book, surprise, surprise. This is The Brain, The Story of You by David Eagleman. It says, join renowned neuroscientist David Eagleman on a whistle-stop tour of the inner cosmos. It's a journey that will take you into the world of extreme sports, criminal justice, genocide, brain surgery, robotics, and the search for immortality. On the way, amidst the infinitely dense tangle of brain cells and their trillions of connections, something emerges that you might not have expected to see. You. Next up we have kind of like a self-help book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, How to Turn Your Fear and Indecision into Confidence and Action, written by Susan Jeffers. Again, this is one that I read. I don't know if I read it all actually, or if I just dipped my toe into this one, but I don't think I'm going to be rereading it, so I'm going to be giving that to the charity shop. And we're almost there. We now just have a couple of books left. So this one might come as a surprise to some people. This is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This is a haunted house type story. It's very gothic, so it sounds like something that would be right up my street, and I thought this was okay. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it as much as everyone else seemed to. I remember thinking that the writing felt a little bit too over the top perhaps. It's a very flowery writing style, which is normally something that I enjoy actually, but this one just felt a little bit forced somehow. And it's a very quick story. I also felt like this read quite young. I think it's supposed to be YA, but it read more like a middle grade, which took me by surprise. And so it just wasn't quite what I was expecting, and I don't think that I will be revisiting this one, so I'm going to send it on to a new loving home. Okay, and finally we have this book, which is What Was Lost by Catherine O'Flynn. I don't think I ever actually read this book. I think this might have been a book that my mum passed on to me that she enjoyed and wanted me to read, and I just never got around to it. And if I'm being truly honest with myself, I'm probably not going to pick it up just because I just haven't been drawn to it. And if I haven't read it for however many years that I've had this on my shelves, then am I realistically going to read it? Probably not. So yeah, it says on the back here, a lost little girl with her detective notebook and toy monkey appears on the CCTV screens of the Green Oaks shopping centre, evoking memories of Kate and Meanie missing for 20 years. Kurt, a security guard with a sleep disorder, and Lisa, a disenchanted deputy manager at Your Music, follow glimpses of the girl through the centre's endless corridors. A welcome change from dealing with awkward customers, colleagues, and the Green Oaks mystery shopper. But as this after-hours friendship grows in intensity, it brings new loss and new longing to light. So yeah, it's a contemporary story with a little bit of a mystery in it, it sounds like, and yeah, I'm just not the biggest fan of contemporary stories, if I'm being completely honest with myself. So yeah, I think that is everything so far. I will probably be doing more of these unboxings in the future as I get closer to eventually moving. So yeah, keep an eye peeled if you enjoyed this one. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if there's any that you're shocked that I'm getting rid of. I'd love to have a chat with you down below in the comments section. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I guess I'll see you next time with another video. Bye!